Welcome back to the deep dive. So today, we're walking into the desert. We're looking at what is, it's arguably one of those well-known narratives in the Western canon. Jesus in the wilderness.
The 40 days.
The 40 days, the standoff with the devil. And I know if you've spent any time in a church or an art gallery or even just, watched enough movies, you have a visual for this.
Oh, absolutely. It's Jesus looking gaunt, but, very stoic.
Right. And then there's a red figure. Maybe he has horns. Maybe he's just a guy in a sharp suit. And he's trying to trick him.
Yeah, and the story, I think it suffers from its own fame. We know the plot points.
Right.
Jesus gets hungry. Satan quotes some verses. Jesus quotes better verses. Satan leaves. It can feel a bit procedural, like a script being read.
Right, like a theological boxing match that was, fixed from the start. But the source material we are working with today, a sermon by Phillip Ray Gibson called Redeeming the Wilderness, argues that if we see it that way, we miss the actual battle.
We miss the whole point.
Yeah, Gibson suggests this isn't an action movie. It's a psychological thriller about identity theft.
Identity theft is the perfect framing here. Gibson pulls from some really heavy hitters to make this case.
He does.
You've got the African-American preacher Jamal Williams, the theologian James H. Cone, and he even brings in J.R.R. Tolkien.
Which is always fun.
It is. And he uses them to show that the wilderness isn't just about, resisting a candy bar when you're hungry. It's a calculated assault on who you believe you are.
And what I found most practical in this whole stack of notes is that Gibson gives us a way to check if we've been hacked, so to speak.
A diagnostic tool.
Exactly, a diagnostic tool using the fruit of the Spirit. But we can't get to the diagnostic until we understand the attack itself. And Gibson starts somewhere really interesting, not in the desert, but at the river.
Context is everything, right? You cannot understand the temptation without the event that happened right before it, the baptism.
So Jesus is in the Jordan River and the heavens tear open.
And this is where the timeline gets crucial. God speaks a declaration over Jesus. He says, "This is my son, the beloved, with whom I am well pleased."
Now, just pause on that for a second. In our modern, meritocracy, we're so wired to think praise comes after performance.
Always.
You get the bonus after you hit the sales goal. You get the medal after you win the race. But when does this declaration happen for Jesus?
Before he's done anything.
Anything. He hasn't preached the Sermon on the Mount yet. He hasn't healed a leper.
Hasn't died for anyone's sins.
He's essentially a carpenter who just got wet.
Exactly. The identity, beloved, it's bestowed before the work begins. It's foundational. It is not conditional.
He doesn't earn it.
He starts with it. And Gibson argues that this belovedness is the armor he takes with him into the wilderness.
But then we have that transition that, I'll be honest, it always bothers me a little. The text says the Spirit led him into the wilderness to be tempted.
It feels like a setup.
It totally feels like a setup. If he's the beloved, why is the Spirit driving him into a war zone?
Yeah, it does feel counterintuitive, but Gibson reframes this. He says it's not a trap, it's a forge.
Okay.
It's formation. And he connects this to the number 40, which, it crops up everywhere in Scripture.
How many years wandering?
Israel wandering for 40 years, Moses on the mountain for 40 days. 40 is basically biblical code for a season where we find out what's real.
So it's the stress test.
Yeah.
Israel failed their test in the desert. They complained. They built idols. Gibson says Jesus is there to, redeem that history.
That's the word he uses. To do in his body what they couldn't do.
Yeah.
He's proving that trust in God is possible even when the environment is hostile.
Okay.
But here is where the source material gets extremely specific about the enemy's strategy. And this is the part that it kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
We usually focus on the temptations, the bread, the power, the glory. But Gibson, and he's referencing Minister Jamal Williams here, he says we need to look at the grammar.
The grammar.
The very first sentence the devil speaks. He doesn't say, "Hey, you look starving." He says, "If you are the Son of God."
Yes.
It's a tiny word, but it's a sniper shot. God just said, "You are my son."
A statement of fact.
A period. And the devil says, "If you are." He takes a period and turns it into a question mark.
That is classic gaslighting. It's making you question your baseline reality.
It is the core strategy. Jamal Williams argues that Satan attacks the identity before he even addresses the physical need. Because if you are secure in being the beloved, hunger is just a physical sensation.
You can handle it.
You can handle it.
Right.
But if you're insecure, if you're wondering, does God actually care about me? Am I actually special? Then hunger becomes a crisis. It becomes proof of abandonment.
So the logic is
Yeah,
destabilize the identity and the behavior will follow.
exactly.
If I don't know who I am, I manipulate them.
Precisely. If you don't believe you are beloved, you will hustle for worth. If you don't believe you are safe, you will grasp for control. That if is the wedge. It creates the opening for everything else.
Okay, so let's look at how this plays out in the 3 specific tests, because Gibson argues they aren't random.
No, they're an escalation.
The first one is turning stones to bread. And on the surface, this seems harmless. I mean, the guy is hungry. What's the sin in eating lunch?
And that's the trick. Hunger isn't a sin. But remember the if. The temptation here is about entitlement. It's about self-sufficiency. The devil is effectively saying, if you're really the Son of God, why are you suffering? Use your power. Fix your own problem right now. Don't wait on God.
It's the temptation to bypass the human experience, to say, I'm too important to be hungry.
And Jesus just refuses. He quotes Deuteronomy saying that life is about more than bread. It's about trusting every word of God. He refuses to use his power to escape vulnerability.
He chooses to trust.
He chooses to trust that his Father knows he's hungry.
Then the devil pivots. He takes him to the pinnacle of the temple, the highest point, and says, throw yourself down. And here's the kicker.
He quotes the Bible.
The devil starts quoting the Bible. He quotes Psalm 91 about angels catching him.
And this is a massive warning flag in the source material.
Yeah.
Just because someone is quoting scripture doesn't mean they're speaking for God. The text can be weaponized.
For sure. But what's the actual trap here? Is it just a dare? Like a prove it moment?
It's the temptation of spectacle and proof. It's demanding that God perform on our terms. If you love me, catch me.
Ah, I see.
It's trying to coerce God into action to soothe our own insecurity. If Jesus jumps, he forces God's hand. He turns the relationship into a transaction. I do this, you do that.
And Jesus shuts that down. Do not put the Lord your God to the test.
Basically, I don't need to force God to prove he loves me. I already know.
Which leads to the final, and I think the most dangerous, temptation.
A high mountain.
The devil shows him all the kingdoms of the world, Rome, the glory, the influence, and says, all this is yours, you just have to bow down.
The power grab.
Yeah, this is the power grab. But Gibson brings in a really interesting comparison here from The Lord of the Rings. He talks about the One Ring. Now, usually when people use this analogy, they just mean power is bad. But Gibson goes deeper.
He does. Think about the character Boromir in Tolkien's story. Boromir isn't an evil guy. He's a hero. He wants to save his city.
Right. He has good intentions.
He has great intentions. He sees the ring and he thinks, if I had that, I could crush the enemy. I could save my people. He wants a good outcome.
And that is why the temptation is so seductive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The devil is offering Jesus the ring. He's saying, look, you came to save the world, right? You want to fix all this brokenness. I can give you the authority to do it right now.
The shortcut.
No suffering, no cross, no waiting for thousands of years. Just take the shortcut.
But the catch is the method.
The catch is that the tool corrupts the user. You cannot build God's kingdom using the devil's tools, domination, coercion, brute force. If you pick up the ring to defeat Sauron, you just become a new Sauron.
So Jesus refusing the kingdoms isn't just him saying, I don't want power. It's him saying, I want to achieve my mission by selling my soul. He chooses the slow road.
The road of suffering and love.
Yeah, rather than the shortcut of political domination.
And this is where the source material makes a really hard pivot. Gibson moves from this ancient mystical story to our current reality. And he argues that this spiritual warfare, this temptation to use the ring, to dehumanize, to grab power, it's still happening, but it doesn't look like a guy with a pitchfork.
Right. He lists some very specific, very modern issues. Racism, nationalism, prejudice against LGBTQ people, economic contempt for the poor. Now, I can hear a skeptic listening and saying, wait a minute. You just jumped from Jesus and Satan to modern social politics. Is Gibson just trying to sneak a political agenda into a sermon?
And that is a fair question, but we have to look at the theology behind it. Gibson is referencing the Apostle Paul's idea of powers and principalities, these spiritual forces that shape human systems. And he brings in James H. Cone here. And Cone's argument isn't political in like a partisan sense, it's theological. He argues that the ultimate goal of evil is dehumanization.
Unpack that a bit. How is racism, for example, a spiritual force in this context?
Well, go back to the beloved. God calls humans his image bearers. So any force, whether it's a law, a cultural attitude, a personal bias, that tricks you into viewing another human being as less than.
As unworthy?
As unworthy, as an object to be used or discarded, that force is attacking God's design.
So if I buy into a system that says those people over there are the problem. They aren't like us. I'm effectively participating in the same identity theft the devil tried on Jesus.
Yes, you are stripping them of their belovedness in your own mind. Cohn says that faith is never neutral. It lands somewhere.
There's no middle ground.
You either stand with the God who loves the vulnerable, or you stand with the systems that crush them. There is no middle ground.
Wow, that raises the stakes significantly.
Mm-hmm.
It means spiritual warfare isn't just about whether I pray enough.
No.
It's about how I treat my neighbor or my employee or the person I disagree with on the internet.
Which brings us to the problem, right? This is subtle. We often don't feel like we are fighting a spiritual battle when we're just doom scrolling or getting annoyed at work.
Right. How do we know if we're losing? How do we know if the if has taken root in us?
And this is where we get to the diagnostic tool Gibson promised. And he uses something that's familiar to a lot of people, the fruit of the Spirit.
Love, joy, peace, patience.
Kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
Usually I hear this list as like a set of rules. Be more patient, be more kind.
A to-do list.
Yeah. But Gibson calls them dashboard lights.
It's a brilliant reframing. He calls it the rot test. He says there's a direct causal link between your identity and your fruit. If your identity is secure, if you know you are beloved, you produce good fruit naturally. But if your identity is under attack, the fruit starts to rot immediately.
Okay, ground this for me. Walk me through a real-life scenario. Let's say I'm in a high-stakes meeting, and a colleague throws me under the bus in front of the boss.
Okay, perfect scenario. The external pressure is high. Now look at the internal reaction. If you have swallowed the if your identity is, I am only valuable if I am respected and competent, what happens?
I panic. I feel threatened. My heart rate goes up.
Right. And what happens to the fruit? Peace vanishes instantly.
Gone.
Gentleness, gone. You likely snap back, maybe get passive-aggressive. Patience evaporates because you need to fix this perception now.
So my reaction, the anger, the anxiety, the harshness, isn't just me having a bad day.
Yes.
It's a signal. It's a signal that my root system is compromised.
Exactly. The rotten fruit, the anxiety and harshness, are symptoms that you've stopped believing you are safe in God's hands. You've switched to survival mode. You're trying to turn stones into bread.
Versus if I'm secure in the beloved, if I know my value isn't on the table in that meeting.
Then you can have self-control. You might still be annoyed, sure, but you don't disintegrate. You can respond with patience because you know the truth about yourself hasn't changed just because someone criticized you.
That is such a helpful way to view it. It takes the shame out of it, in a way.
It does.
Instead of beating myself up for being impatient, I can ask, whoa, what am I afraid of right now? Where did I lose my sense of being held?
That's the diagnostic. Temptation isn't just an urge to do a bad thing. It's the pressure to let your soul wither, to become hard, frantic, and unloving. As Gibson puts it, when you feel threatened or powerless, gentleness gives way to harshness. That is the sign.
It's a sign you're under spiritual attack.
Yeah.
So we have the diagnosis. What's the prescription? Gibson wraps this all up with a nod to John Wesley and a challenge for the week.
Wesley had this idea that grace isn't just forgiveness for the past, it's power for the present.
Okay.
It's the power to resist that rot. So Gibson challenges the listener to engage in small acts of resistance.
He's not asking us to go fast for 40 days.
No, not at all. He's asking us to watch our fruit. When you feel that pull toward contempt, maybe it's reading a news headline, maybe it's dealing with a difficult family member, pause. Check the fruit. If you feel the rot setting in, do the opposite.
Speak a kind word when you want to be snarky.
Tell the truth without being cruel. Show mercy when you have the power to crush someone. These seem small, but in the context of the wilderness, these are acts of war.
You are refusing to use the enemy's tool.
You're refusing the ring.
I really love how he closes the sermon. He reminds us that the wilderness isn't permanent. The story ends, and the devil leaves, and angels show up.
Jesus walks out of the desert, and he walks out different than he went in. He's been clarified. He knows exactly who he is, and no one can take that from him. And that's the hope for the listener, right? If you feel like you're in a wilderness, a season of testing, of silence, of struggle, you aren't abandoned, you're being formed.
The wilderness is where the if goes to die, and the beloved gets hardened into reality.
That's it. The question isn't, how do I get out of here as fast as possible? The question is, who will I be when I walk out?
A powerful question to carry with you this week. Check your fruit, remember you're the beloved, and put down the stones. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Thank you.
We'll get you in the next one.